Welcome to the Bell and Brother Podcast. I'm Glen.
I'm Brian.
So, this week we are talking more specifically about Oklahoma State football, as well as, OU play UTEP coming up here tomorrow night. This section of the podcast being recorded on Friday, September 1st, and then we'll record the second section of the podcast, part 2, with hopefully one more person, and covering Saturday college football matchups as well. So, Brian, I think we should explain a little bit to our listeners. We had a brief hiatus. We missed a whole week of uploading. Yeah. And between some, issues just going on, scheduling, stuff like that, trying to get somebody else to join myself, Glenn, in the studio, it was a little challenging. So we apologize to our listeners for taking that week off. But you know what? It's Labor Day weekend, and we're still working. Yep, so, but absolutely. This is just a lot of fun. This isn't really work. So, if anyone takes podcasting too seriously, then I'm sorry for you.
Yeah, we sincerely apologize.
Yeah, sincerely apologize. Okay, so Brian, we both went to the OSU game last night, saw them beat Tulsa 59-24. What were your, what were your like outstanding moments of the game? What did you take away from the, what was the stuff you just didn't expect to happen?
Well, what I liked a lot was, the thing that stood out to me the most was probably the offensive line and how much better they did blocking this year compared to last year. It was almost like a 180 turnaround when it comes to that stuff. I mean, it was amazing how Justice Hill was able to rush that much compared to, rush that much with such a, not as good offensive line as last year. But now this year we have Justice Hill, and I don't know what happened. But, just able to completely create huge holes for Justice Hill, King, who's going to be the backup running back for us this year. Just giant holes that guys were just able to rush all the way downfield, take it to the house, just play house ball, really. And now, that just stood out to me the most. I was just really impressed with that. They were able to give a lot of time for Mason Rudolph, even though he really doesn't need that much time to get the ball out of his hands. It's really quick. But yeah, that stood out to me the most by far.
I think the offensive line is a huge improvement. That 6'8", that Cal transfer, graduate transfer, this guy's 6'8", was really a beast on the offensive line, really helped out. There's only one time where I saw Rudolph get sacked, where he had a blindside hit, and it was just kind of a dumb thing. He ended up fumbling the ball and stuff like that. But that was towards the end of the half. I think that if you're an OSU fan, you let that one go.
Yeah.
I think OSU was trying to do too much, I think, earlier in the game, because clearly OSU should have scored 62. The thing that I'm taking away is that, there's a couple miscues and stuff like that, that I didn't expect to happen out of a team that might go undefeated. That's what the hype is on this team. And for me, at least, I'm really excited for this OSU season. I just, a game against Tulsa makes me nervous. They didn't return a lot of guys. And then to have them score 24 makes me a little nervous. Now, I know they scored most of those points, either off of OSU errors or, or other OSU errors, really. They didn't score a lot of those points just driving down the field and scoring on the defense.
Yeah, it was crazy because, if I go back to the offensive line point, I was actually watching a college football live on ESPN, and this, I can't remember his name. I believe he played offensive line at LSU, and he said, well, in this day and age, we're so athletic in D1 sports right now that holes that are just wide open just aren't created anymore. But on the contrary, look at last night. Justice Hill was able to take it all the way to the house. King was able to take it a wide open hole all the way down into the end zone. I was really impressed with that. On offense, I read a article by the Tulsa World that they showed that how long the drives were for this past game, and they said just take a look at the offensive touchdown drives. 4 of them were under 35 seconds. Scoring drives, 4 out of the 7 were under 35 seconds. And I was just blown away by that statistic. I mean, I think that was the standout statistic of the night, that we are able to just the tempo is just that high. It's just so fast. No, I don't think there's an offense in the rest of the league that can really compare to that.
Yeah, this team has a chance to not only rack up a ton of points every single game, but to do it at such a rate that'll surprise other teams in the country. They're so early on in the game, when Rudolph to Johnson, I think we could start hearing a lot more of that. Tyron Johnson he's got some hops, man. He jumped up in the air, grabbed the ball, over the Tulsa cornerback, and then just ran in the end zone. He just out-muscled the guy. And it
made it look easy.
And that's his first game in an OSU uniform. So that's really, really good to see. Now I know he's a sophomore, if I'm right.
Sophomore, right?
Yeah, redshirt sophomore. So but this is first year at OSU. Clearly, he's an LSU transfer, the 5-star guy. There's been a lot of talk about him, But man, Rudolph throwing him the ball, that's a good connection.
It's a good look.
That was awesome.
I mean, and the fact that he's not starter. He is a reserve, more or less a reserve. And I mean, Aitman, Lacey, and Washington are the top 3. And that the fact that a 5-star athlete out of high school is a reserve, I mean, it just kind of boasts what kind of depth that we have this year, that we have a lot to work with, and it's really impressive. I'm really looking forward to see how that goes.
Well, as we talk more about the offense, who in your mind really stood out from last night's game? But the offensive line clearly, but was there one single player?
If I had to give one player right off the bat, I'm gonna go. This might be a very generic answer, but Mason Rudolph. I mean, the ability for him just to, from snap to release, that probably was under. It was extremely quick. I mean, very, very fast find for him. It made it look so fast and easy. I was really just blown away. And I told Aaron, who I was one of the podcasters here at OSU, we were talking about. I said to him, "Man, look at that speed. That's something that you see like Aaron Rodgers or somebody like that throw. Just quick throws." And I was, as I said before, I was just blown away. And I don't think that there's another quarterback that could really make that connection faster. I mean, Rudolph to Washington is just an incredible connection. That and to Johnson, whoever he's throwing to, it's going to get downfield fast. I mean, that's why we're able to do, one play, 77 yards in 10 seconds. It's just going to be that quick. And this what stands out to me most as well is that this is the week 1. We are in the very first week of college football, and we are putting up 59 points. Just to start off the bat, I mean, given it is a non-conference opponent, but we are still putting up a pretty good amount of points just to start off the year. I like that a lot. I think that's great.
Yeah, Rudolph's got all the hype. He's got all the potential to be a Heisman Trophy type of quarterback in that conversation, of course. The guy that stood out for me by far and away was Dylan Stoner. Mm-hmm. That guy had a injury last season. That was a season-ending injury, early on in the season, in the non-conference schedule of games at OSU. And he came back last night, and he looked impressive, to say the least. He is the prototypical slot receiver kind of guy you've got now for OSU, able to make quick cuts, just beat a guy speed-wise and stuff like that. And he looked very, very impressive. Just his ability to get open, and get those 5-6 yard, plays, 5-6 yards, get down, and not have issues where, being a shorter guy in the field where there's, a possibility of, a defensive back, coming over and just taking his head off and, then taking it back for 6 or a fumble or anything like that. and Stoner made some smart plays where he just got out of bounds too. And so his ability, I think, is going to help out this team a lot, just with the idea that he is a different type of receiver than the other guys we got on the roster.
Yeah.
So we can go into it. Washington is your prototypical, I think, like star wide receiver on a team. He's a little undersized, but his speed and his ability, his hand-eye coordination, I think, make up for a lot of stuff. His ability to grab the ball over his shoulder.
Absolutely.
When it's thrown and in stride is very, very impressive. Tyron Johnson is another guy who is a wideout, clearly, but he's one of those guys who can go up and get the ball, who we saw last night on the first touchdown for OSU. He can get some passes over the middle, stuff like that. And then it's moved down, you've got McCleskey, Chris Lacey, and then, of course, Marcel Aitman, who's coming back from previously being a 1,000-yard receiver before he missed all of last season. So then you've got, the finally on the list is Dylan Stoner. We're 6 wide receivers in, and there's a guy last night who just, he just caught a lot of passes and did really, really well. And I think that the idea that OSU is going to have the 6-headed attack, a wide receiver. And then also Justice Hill can catch the ball in the backfield too.
I saw that. It was really impressive.
So, and then that King last night for, OSU. So the offense should outscore everyone by a huge margin. And for anyone who wants to say that Tulsa, you only scored 59. 59 points is a lot of points in a ball game, especially when your starters don't play the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. Secondly, Tulsa's not a bad team. They won 10 games last season. So if you came to me and you said, okay, here's how this game's going to go, it went about as predicted. I think there were a few more slip-ups and mistakes than I thought were going to happen for sure. But it was not a bad game by any means. This was a chance for first game at home, get everything, get all the butterflies and all of the hiccups out of your system in the first game.
Yeah, McCleskey.
Yeah, McCleskey. We're hitting largely at that. We might get to it in a second, but get all of that type of stuff out of out of your system and go play some dang good football. And it was impressive. OSU came out to play last night, and I don't know if the defense will be able to stop everyone. And I definitely don't think they will. That's not how the Big 12 is set up. That's not where your star players don't go play defense, stuff like that. If you told me right now, is OSU's offense by when they are 12 games into the season, or they're 13 games into the season, I think this offense 13 games into the season will have the chemistry and be able to match up as well as just with anyone else in the entire country.
Yeah, and arguably this is the best offense in the nation. And people, you'll hear anybody say, well, Oklahoma might be the best offense in the country with a full starting defense, offensive line with guys going to go in the first round of the NFL draft. Baker's a Heisman finalist, but we can go into this more. But there's just no depth. There's not as much depth as us. There's the skill players just aren't as deep as we are. And that's why I've always thought that OSU has the best offense in the country. Alabama can say whatever they can say about their offense as well, but Oklahoma State just has the most, talented guys that can just prove more on the field and just put up the numbers that just show better. This year, I think it will be a shining example of that. But other than that, once we get deeper and deeper into the season, there's really is no excuse for Mason Rudolph not to score. Not to pass for another 4,000-yard season. I just think that he's done a great job. James Washington, can go for 1,500 yards again at least, and still share yards with Tyron Johnson, Marcel Aitman. You choose it. You pick. Name somebody. They're gonna be able to produce for us, and even the Cowboy back will probably produce some for us, and that's just how crazy our offense is going to be working and just churning this season. And defensively, once we get into defense, I understand that we're not exactly set up to stop everybody in the nation. Obviously, the game against Tulsa showed that there was a few things that we need to patch up, especially in the secondary, but I think you would agree. Ramon Richards' transition to the safety position was a great move, just a great move. And also the defensive line, showed that against offenses, run offenses, that it's going to be hard to run against our defensive front. I think the linebackers that are returning, and plus the young defensive line, even though how young it is, it's just more of a, these guys are just huge. I mean, really big guys. You just name somebody. They're just huge. I'm looking forward to see how they do as well, especially against guys like Rodney Anderson that are potentially trying to start here for Oklahoma, Hicks for TCU, who is another 1,000-yard guy. If we're just talking conference stuff, so we gotta get into that's gonna be good stuff this year.
Yeah, I personally think that this team has the ability to go all the way, and the one hiccup could be is a mistake on offense, and then where the defense can't recover. That's where you get in a hole in the Big 12. So, to me, honestly, I think that this OSU team has the potential to go undefeated. Whether it will happen or not is really hard to tell. Having to play another team again in Jerry World, where I believe OSU's 0-3 all time, that type of stuff makes me really nervous as a fan, and it doesn't sit well, because let's say that OSU goes 12-0, right? Mm-hmm. Beats everyone, then gets that championship game, and then falters in that one. Well, if you think that you falter in that one, then all of a sudden there's just absolutely no chance that you can play in the in the Final Four, and then you're just out of it and stuff like that. And that type of stuff, as an OSU fan, it does make me nervous, having to play the team again. But then again, it sets you up where you should be able to, play them once, beat them, play them again, beat them. There shouldn't be any doubt, or reason why you'd lose. And that type of stuff is, but then again, when you make mistakes, when you miss like an under 40-yard field goal, no matter when you do it, that makes me nervous. Yeah, when you have a guy who is one of your returning guys on the team field a punt within inside the 5-yard line, cough it up, and muff the punt entirely, or whatever you want to call it. Defense recovers it, and then scores a touchdown in the end zone. That type of stuff should never happen. That type of stuff is the type of stuff that happens in high school. You get benched. Mm-hmm. That type of stuff happens in college. You don't see another down. But we'll see. We'll really see what happens. With that, I think McCluskey will be back and just fine. And this next week, this Friday night, OSU plays, and what's weird is OSU plays in 8 days, and then OSU play again in another 8 days, at Pitt, and then OSU play in 7 days and 7 days, which is cool, but OSU should knock the doors off of South Alabama. That should not be a competition whatsoever. There should be where South Alabama's maybe scores, I don't know, touchdown or two, 14, something like that
at most.
But this should be a confidence booster kind of game, because going to play going to play Pittsburgh in Heinz Stadium is going to be rough, to say the least. And this is a chance for OSU to really get their foot in stuff like that really, really well, and a good game to just blow the doors off of people. Try some trick plays that no one else is going to see, for the rest of the season. Throw everyone off of how your offense is really going to look. That type of stuff. I could see OSU just deciding, hey, you know what, South Alabama, there they are. We're going to run the ball every single play, And I could see where OSU goes, hey, listen, we've got King, we've got Hill. We're going to run it down your throats. You think we're going to pass it because we've got all these wide receivers, we got Mason Rudolph. But you know what? Screw it. We're just going to run the dang football.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's something in me that thinks that, as a team, other defenses scout what they've already seen really, really well. Well, if you never see what OSU has, all of a sudden it's a chance you can go undefeated. That's a chance where if you don't show your entire offensive playbook early in the season, then when you get to play in that first Big 12 team at home in TCU, you play OU at home, and then you finish out the season playing K-State, the very last game of the season is against Kansas. But when you finish out the season playing K-State, if they don't know what to expect, then that's really, really good for you too.
Yeah, and I think that the South Alabama game is a great primer for the Pittsburgh game. Since we're going to a away, you kind of get that same feel as it going away. I mean, Pitt, that's a long trip. I mean, going to the East Coast, that is a long trip, and just the way that this season, the schedule is set up, it's unfortunate because I mean, let's say we put another top 25 team, let's say that for instance, just for the sake of example, OSU decides to go play Tennessee. Okay, that would have looked a lot better for a schedule, and a one-loss OSU team would have probably made the playoff. Here's the thing about our schedule this year is that OSU has to go undefeated in the through the regular season and the conference championship to make the playoff. Our out of conference schedule is just not strong enough to support a one-loss season. As compared to Oklahoma, it'll still be pretty hard to make it in under a one loss, let's say against Ohio State, but they still have to run the table as well. And like last year, they still didn't run the table after one loss against Houston. So we have to, and also what came to my mind was that we can't just beat these teams by a narrow margin. I mean, this team for these first 3 games, this has to be a wide margin. This has to show that against guys that can't compete with us, this needs to be a 30-point blowout pretty much every single time. I can understand if it's maybe 20, 25 points against Pitt because it is a long way up to Heinz Field, but it's got to be, we've got to keep it wide. It's got to be a wide margin, especially against these teams. They're, narrow teams like Iowa State. I mean, we are going to Ames this year. Can be considered a trap game at times, but, best offense in the country. There shouldn't be any reason why not. Same thing against Kansas. Kansas, I mean, we saw the game last year. We were able to, put it together going into the second half, but we can't trip up. We can't make it a narrow game against Kansas either. Everything has to be very widely spread as far as point goes. If the line's 17, we need to beat the line by twice that. That's just how it is. So unfortunately, but some of these teams are going to be hard to beat this year. Oklahoma obviously is going to be a tough game. I think TCU has got a really good team this year because they're returning 17 guys. Same thing for Texas. Texas is a young team that has a lot to prove. It's good. I mean, it's a lot better conference I think than last year. Because I think there are 2 teams that do have a chance, to go big this season and win the conference championship.
Yeah, I'm very nervous about this season as a whole, but I think the one thing that slip us up, as we get into it, maybe kind of a trap game, something we're not expecting. But that first Big 12 game at home against TCU, that should be one where I don't think TCU's good, so we should blow the doors off them. And you're right, these next 2 games really against Pitt and against South Alabama. South Alabama, I don't know what division they are in football. I don't know what conference they're in. I don't know really anything about them. I know they're in Mobile. That's it, And there's no possibility we can slip up against them in the slightest. And I'm talking where we only win by 2 touchdowns kind of a thing. And are in the, are in the championship discussion, Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to, as a team, OSU's going to have to figure out how to really get everything under wraps because this win was great against Tulsa. Mm-hmm. No matter which way you cut it. This is a big win. Tulsa tacked on 1 touchdown late in the fourth quarter when all the backups were in, and overall they scored 17 points in the second quarter, one of which was complete slip-up. So if you take those 2 away, then OSU really, won 14, 59-14 and stuff like that. And, it should have even been higher in my opinion just because of the field goal and a couple other things, defensive pass interferences that were or were not called or whatever. But if you're OSU, you got to feel really good right now about how this game went on a Thursday night game, on being, on FS1 and stuff like that. It's a confidence builder against Tulsa, an in-state rival that I think they're calling the Turnpike Classic or something like that.
That's right.
Just because Tulsa's only 60 or so miles away. So this was a really, really good game for OSU to start the season with and knock it out. But you're right, Tulsa's not going to be good this season, and neither will Pittsburgh really at all. And of course, South Alabama won't be in they will not be in the national championship discussion. And if they are, that would be the darkest of dark horses.
Oh, yeah, right.
If South Alabama comes out strong and then beats this OSU team, goes undefeated, they could potentially do something. I don't know what.
That's scary.
They're not going to be a Western Michigan even type of team like last year, but. Yeah, South Alabama. Maybe we just need to, that's going to keep me awake at night. South Alabama and their team. I'm happy it's on a Friday because I'll be able to watch it for sure. It's on a Saturday at like 11 a.m. or something, but it'll be no matter what, it'll be a fun game.
Yeah, I think there is going to be South Alabama is not as good as Tulsa, not even close, and I think there's going to be a lot more opportunity for the backups to get in, which is good because it creates more depth for us. No matter how you slice that as well, it does get better. Also, the Pitt game, I think that's going to be a really fun game too. Playing at Pittsburgh, kind of gives that good feel, gets you ready for conference road games as well. I think that's going to be huge for us. I do believe that. And plus being the ACC, hey, Pitt beat Clemson last year, so technically didn't we beat Clemson last year?
Hey, I like that idea. I like those ideas. It's gonna be a challenging season if OSU slips up and loses a game. Is there one game, Brian, that you think that OSU could slip up against that? Maybe some people are talking about, maybe some people aren't.
Man, if I had to look through it, I think it. Oh well, I'm not going to say Texas because, I do think that game at Texas is going to be really hard. That's going to be difficult. What I do think is going to be a tough game is the K-State game. Jesse Ertz is a fantastic quarterback. He was the only quarterback in the Big 12 that ran and passed for more than 1,000 yards this season. Dual-headed monster there. Bill Snyder has boasted about him greatly, and they do have some guys returning, but that's the only one that I could really see that game being very worrisome. That's not, your Oklahoma or Texas, but other than that, I think that's really about it.
Yeah, I always worry about that. I always worry about when OSU goes against and plays Texas, just because OSU all time is 7-24. 5 of those wins of those 7 are in a row. So whenever OSU goes down to Austin, to OK Royal Stadium, that makes me nervous as a fan. More or less just because Texas has always been a tough place to play. They've always got a great fan base. They've always got a very loyal following. No matter what kind of product they put on the field, no matter what guys they got on the field, no matter what stuff they've got going on, they always seem to be pretty decent and a pretty darn good matchup.
That's a hostile environment to play in. Austin Royal Stadium is a very hostile place to play. And their stadium holds over 100,000 people. It's very loud. It's huge. Being a better team than they were last year, I think it's going to be a lot better for OSU as well. But that's definitely going to be a tough game. I was just thinking, other than OU and UT, what other game could have been, a trap? And I definitely think that would have been K-State this year.
Yeah, K-State poses an interesting question just because they're always coached really, really well with Bill Snyder. They always do really good as a team, but how good are they every season? OSU might have. It's close. OSU should have probably lost last season against at K-State. That was a tough game, and luckily they got out of there with a win. But it's always, Manhattan, Kansas isn't nothing to be messing around with.
I mean, isn't that in the Little Apple this year? Is it up there?
No, it's here.
Oh, it's here.
It's
okay,
here,
well,
yeah.
I mean, that's a lot better then. But hey, a very tough team to play for sure.
Well, you know what? We will be back with part 2 of the Belton Brother podcast tomorrow night. We'll be back with part 2 to cover the Saturday recap of college football. Welcome to part 2 of the Belton Brother podcast, recapping the first weekend of college football. I'm still Glenn, and no longer Brian is with us anymore. He had to go do some family stuff back in Houston or around that area, so best wishes for him, clearly, with all that stuff going on. But I got Alexi to join us here in studio. The Greek Freak 6, is that right?
That's
Greek
right.
Freak 6? I don't know.
That's not like my actual Twitter name, but I do
Yeah.
have a nice little nickname, the Greek Freak. But
Okay.
My Twitter name is A&amp.
No, just going to the classic, yeah. What's 6 here? What are we doing with the number?
That was just my number in high school that I wore for sports teams. So I just stick with it. When I was in high school, I made my Twitter, and I just felt like putting a 6 on the end of the handle. So
All right, repping the Devil's number. All right, I see you.
hey,
Okay.
6 is my lucky number, so I gotta roll with it.
All right, not going 7. But anyways, well, Lexi, we are back to recap what has been a crazy couple of days here in college football. Tennessee is playing Georgia Tech right now, I think. So clearly, for all you Tennessee and Georgia Tech fans listening to the podcast who were just really amped up about that game, and I'm surprised you're listening to the podcast because most of you people are Oklahomans or actually Australians. So shout out Australia.
Really? Okay.
Tweet us some stuff. Give us some questions if you're from Australia. Anyways, as far as this part 2 of the podcast here, we're going to recap Saturday and Sunday college football. Mainly, just to be clear, we're going to recap the West Virginia Tech game because that was kind of crazy. Of course, we're going to recap the blasphemous craziness of the UCLA A&M game. But first, let's get to Saturday. So Saturday, 2 things happened. One, it's kind of expected here. I don't think that anyone really thought that UTEP, University of Texas El Paso, it was really going to put up a fight against OU, especially in Norman in the brand new Lloyd Noble, stadium. I don't know what the exact phrasing is. I'm sorry, I don't go to OU, but the stadium looked really, really cool. Their tight end Mark Andrews, I think it is. I'm gonna have to look that up because I'm probably wrong. So just if you need to let me know how wrong I am, it's at GC Belton Brother on Twitter. But yeah, the tight end looked good. OU clearly just reloaded. They've got receivers out the wazoo. They've got running backs, just plenty and a handful, too many in my opinion. Just because I'm an OSU fan and I don't like seeing OU do well in things, but that's just me personally. And then of course we've got Lincoln Riley, head coach of OU, right, doing his thing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And Lincoln Riley now has he's got a chance where he can call up some recruits from other universities and give him a phone call and try to recruit more out of the state of Texas because he won handily, in Norman. I think they allowed 1 touchdown, the defense did. I don't think OU's defense really anyone thought they would miss a step this year. Lincoln Riley looks like the ship sailing just straight ahead like normal. Clearly, he's not Bob Stoops. Clearly, he's the youngest football coach in the league right now, and maybe in history. I'm not sure on that one. But the ship's sailing straight forward for your OU and straight towards the Big 12 championship game after the first week, which it should be. You played, UTEP. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, from Oklahoma, I think it's like you said, reloading. It's Oklahoma football. That's what they're known for. They're not supposed to have a down year, and even with Bob Stoops being gone, a lot of college football fans are thinking, well, mate, what's Oklahoma going to look like this year? New coach, brand new, like first time being a head coach for Oklahoma University. It's going to be different. I still think, week 1, playing a UTEP team, I think next week's going to be the big challenge, and that's, Ohio State, at Ohio State. And everybody knows Ohio State's good, got a great program up there. That's going to be the real, test, and we'll see how Oklahoma looks then. But, first game, they looked great. No surprises there. Baker Mayfield's back. He looks good. It'll be interesting, though, to see how they do against Ohio State. I'm actually really excited to see that game.
That is a game I'm really looking out for. As an OSU fan and someone who's trying to gauge, how good is the Big 12 this year? How good is the Big 12 against, especially teams outside of conference? That was where OU kind of went out on a limp, and they decided to schedule an out-of-conference game that could really help their postseason chances at, being in the Final Four, because there's always going to be one team that's in the, there's Power 5, and there's only 4 selected for the college football playoffs. So that's a thing where they can really help, or hurt themselves too. Last year they got beaten pretty badly in Norman. So that's something you really can't get away from. And then OU at the end of the season looked just unbeatable as anyone else. So will OU be able to put all of those, kind of first game bugs and jitters away, just because they've already played one game in the season? Granted, it wasn't against any good team at all, but Ohio State looked, they played Indiana, an in-conference team, and they struggled with them a little bit in the first half. Of course, they were down 1 point in halftime. And then they came back and then they just beat the crap out of Indiana. I don't think anyone expected that to be a real game, and I'm surprised it was for the first half. But for OU, I feel a little bit more confident going into this game this weekend, just because Ohio State doesn't look as dominant as they did last year to start out. But then again, they're Ohio State, and you're playing in the horseshoe. Like, you're playing at Ohio State. I think it's gonna be tough for them, really.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be extremely tough. But looking at it from my standpoint, I'm obviously an Oklahoma State fan, and I think I want Oklahoma to win. Like, if the Big 12 wants a representative in the college football playoff, I think we need Oklahoma to win this game, because last week took a hit. You know what happened?
Yep.
Baylor lost, Texas lost,
yep,
West Virginia lost.
Yep.
All in week 1.
Yeah.
Texas at home to Maryland. I think they should win that game.
We'll have to talk more about that in a second. Yeah.
But yeah, those games are it just makes the Big 12 look vulnerable, and like years past, have had no respect from the College Football Playoff Committee.
None.
Are we going to get it now? We just lost 3 games in the first week, and 2 of them were pretty bad. So
I didn't expect Maryland to be good at all this season. I never really expect Maryland as Maryland to me is more of a basketball school than a football school at this stage. They had Mel Trimble I think he might have gotten drafted, but it's one of those things where I don't expect to hear from Maryland in the football season. And Maryland goes into Austin, Texas, into Darrell K. Royal Stadium, and beats Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And it was by 10. It wasn't by nothing. Texas's quarterback stayed in the entire game, but Maryland's didn't. And that's something where Maryland was down for the count. They weren't out of the game. Clearly, they're still leading the game. But there was a momentum switch whenever the Maryland quarterback went down. They just subbed in a freshman. The freshman went 3 and out, and Texas couldn't take advantage of that. And then it turns out Bouchel, the quarterback for Texas, just couldn't put it together. Couldn't get a drive going. I think there was I forget how many turnovers were in that game for Texas. Special teams was crazy in that game, of course. Mm-hmm. But if you're Texas, that was the chance you had to come back in the game and win. And you lost at home by 10 in your new head coach's first game. And that's got to just suck. Thank God that's not, an Oklahoma school. Because that
seriously
would be, Lincoln Riley losing to UTEP would be another world compared to a Big 10 team beating a Big 12 team. But that's inexcusable to me. And it's just one of those things where you have to come out strong. You have to start the season off right on a good note. And I just don't know how this happened, really. Did you think Maryland had a chance this game? Because I thought Texas would beat them. I didn't think it'd be by 50.
Right.
And I don't know what the betting line was on this. I don't really pay attention to that too much. But I think Texas could have.
Wow.
What was it?
You say that, and I have it up right here. Texas was favored by 18.5.
And they lost by 10 at home.
So they were supposed to win this game. That's wow. I did not know that.
They're supposed to win this game by 20-ish.
I didn't know that.
By at least 15.
Wow.
That is
shocking.
That's rough.
I think that makes this a whole lot worse, because like you said, Maryland's not a powerhouse. Like, Maryland is just like another team in the Big 10. And for them to go into Austin and beat Texas by 10 to start the season, I think that's a huge huge letdown for Texas. I mean, wow. I'm shocked. I didn't know they were 18-point favorites.
Man, as a Texas fan, you gotta be just wincing real hard. But not as hard as Baylor fans, because Baylor did the unthinkable. They lost to a team that I look at and see how much Baylor's favored by, because I'm really curious on that one.
I saw that one. Before I say it, I want to make sure I'm right, but I think it was 35.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure they're favored by 35.
Liberty used to be an FCS team. I know that. This is their first FBS win, or first win over a FBS team. Period. And I'm sure, without a doubt, Baylor paid them to come play as a cupcake team, where Baylor should have just gone out there and won. And man, Baylor starts off the season with a new head coach, and they lose. They lose in a fashion where I didn't expect that out of any team, but Baylor really just couldn't stop Liberty. It just that's a weird. I mean, I know the Big 12 defense isn't known for being really the third down and short guys that can just put it all on the line and stop them, but man, that has got to be. I think the Big 12 took a very big hit with that one. Because now let's say Baylor goes 11-1. Their one loss is to Liberty. They're not getting in. It doesn't matter. They're not getting in the playoffs no matter what.
Yeah,
because your one loss was to such a weak team. Now, Baylor has lost 7 straight now since last season, because they lost 6 straight to end the last season. After beating OSU, they lost 6 straight. Now, what in the world is going on in Waco?
I mean, you just have to go back to last year and how everything happened. It all went away. After Art Briles got fired, everything went downhill. They started out, solid for the season. But when they started losing all those games, they lost 6 in a row in the season. Man, they're still going back to last year. And I think this just shows Baylor as a football program is not where it wants to be, and it's not where they want to be at all. And it just makes the Big 12 look terrible. I'm sorry, but if you want to gain respect outside the conference with, the bigger teams like the SEC and the ACC and all that, you got to beat these little teams like that. They can't come into your home and win. And yeah, it might have been a fluke. Liberty, 9 out of 10 probably loses to Baylor. But Baylor's got to win that game. I don't care what you say. Baylor is an elite school for football, at least the past couple of years, and I don't think they should have fallen that quick. But I think it looks bad for the Big 12, and I hope this doesn't affect anybody in terms of OU or Oklahoma State if either team were to be in the college football playoff and look at Baylor's really weak this year, Texas is weak this year, so those wins don't look as good if you beat them. So that's just something about the Big 12 that kind of scares me and doesn't make me feel good.
How bad is it that there are 3 teams that lost, and 3 Big 12 teams that lost opening weekend, and there's one team that wasn't ranked and lost to a very unranked team? I don't know how bad Liberty is, technically speaking, but I don't think Liberty was on anyone's radar. I don't think they can be at all. And Texas loses to Maryland. Bad loss, because you were favored by 18.5 at home.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor loses at home to a used to be FCS team, just a couple of seasons ago, maybe even last season. I don't know that much about Liberty, and if somebody does, let me know. But then you have on Sunday, you have West Virginia losing to Virginia Tech. And so you've got Will Grier, who transferred from Florida to West Virginia. And he's got a wide receiver who, catching up on a little history here, that wide receiver, he used to be a USC commit because he was offered one of those recruitment letters in 8th grade. He's a famous quarterback who's offered a recruitment letter in 8th grade by Lane Kiffin.
Okay.
And he's that famous quarterback that was the prototypical, guy. And he was offered a scholarship by Lane Kiffin. And now he's a wide receiver at West Virginia. So good on you, falling through, still playing, D1 football. But gosh, you guys, I know Virginia Tech I think they might have been ranked 1 seed higher or whatever like that, but still, that was a close game till the end, and I feel like West Virginia could have won that game quite easily, and they just didn't, and that sucks.
Yeah, and I think if any team out of those was to get away with that, I'd say it's West Virginia, just because they played a tough, Virginia Tech team and they're ranked. But I mean, like I said, all these losses now, it doesn't look good on the Big 12. And West Virginia, they're supposed to be solid. No one's expecting them to get, to the Final Four of the college football playoff, but they're expected to win those games and compete for the Big 12 at least. So yeah, I just think for this weekend, it's just a disappointment for the Big 12. But I don't know. What do you think? What is your take from this?
For my take is that all three teams lost opening weekend. One team I didn't expect in the entire world to lose in Baylor. The other team I maybe gave a 10% chance, maybe 15% chance to losing, but they're playing at home. Tom Herman's the new head coach. A lot of hype around him. It's UT. As an OSU fan, we're ranked top 10 in the polls, and I'm worried about when we go down there, just because they are UT. I feel like that's a game they just should have won. And now, as an OSU fan, I'm not as worried, but of course, knock on some wood, I should be probably still, because it's still UT. But that's weird to me, and then the West Virginia one's weird to me. The worst loss clearly is Baylor, by far and away. You have a Saturday night game at home to open up the season against a team that you should definitely beat, like a Drum and Liberty, that you're definitely paying to come there and stuff like that. To me, it's a weird thing as a whole, to have that happen. But let's move on one day to let's continue on with the West Virginia Tech day with the Texas A&M UCLA game.
That was wild.
I was not around my phone for a little bit, let's say, and last time I looked at it, A&M was beating the crap out of UCLA. It was like 44-10, I think it was. And then UCLA, then I get home and I see the score, 45-44. And that was impressive. UCLA's come back. Josh Rosen looks like he could have some Heisman hype around him. USC, who's the other LA team, who has more hype around them this season, of course, just because they've got Josh Darnold and stuff like that. I mean, Rosen looks like the better quarterback after this first week, and that's crazy. It was at UCLA, so clearly anything's possible. But I mean, scoring 34 points or 35 points straight to win the game, and then doing the fake spike that I guess technically shouldn't have been a touchdown, but then again, UCLA still had like 45 seconds left, and the way it was going, UCLA probably would have scored anyways. So it just is one of those things where I did not expect to come back whatsoever by UCLA, especially of that magnitude. I don't think anyone did. That's one of the craziest football things I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's for week one. That's a awesome way to start week one. I mean, UCLA and A&M. No one thought it'd be a blowout, but no one thought that one of those teams would be coming back like that. So I think that's really cool. That's special. That's a special game, and great kickoff to week one of college football season. I don't know. I guess A&M's going to be feeling it. They're gonna get some fire at them this week from their fans. I'm sure there'll be some angry fans trying to say, what's their coach's name?
Who?
A&M's coach,
Kevin Someone.
I heard on ESPN they were like, oh, he's gonna start, getting some. There'll be some rumors flying around to get him out of A&M, and it's just like, it's one game. Yes, he blew it, but he's had some good success there at A&M so far. So, but yeah, I think that was a great start to the weekend, and I'm just so glad college football's back. It'll be fun every Saturday now to be able to watch college football all day. Wake up, watching college game day, 10 a.m. to what? Usually 10 p.m. the last game ends. So I'm excited. It should be a fun year.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. But as someone who follows UCLA football more than probably anyone else that goes to OSU, that was crazy and awesome. And now the hype is real for UCLA. I think that's a thing where that momentum can shift throughout the entire rest of the season. If you're UCLA, yeah, Washington's a tough team. Yeah, USC's a tough team. Yeah, Oregon's a tough team. A bunch of those Pac-12 teams. But I don't think any one of those games are just unthinkably hard to win.
Right.
So that's a crazy weekend in college football recap right there from Glen and Alexi. Yeah. Well, moving on a little bit, so there's some NBA news we should cover from this past week. Kyrie Irving officially got traded to Boston. He's officially a Celtic now. The Cavs made this whole ordeal about Isaiah Thomas, stuff like that. His injury and stuff like that. They wanted more compensation for the Kyrie trade, and they needed in a 2020 second round pick, I believe it is. So, congrats to not David Griffith anymore because he's no longer in Cleveland, but congrats to Dan Gilbert, I guess, and Cavs for really getting that pick. I mean, there's rumors now that the Cavs might trade Shumpert and their Brooklyn pick for DeMarcus Cousins.
Really? I didn't see that.
Rumors coming out tonight about that.
Interesting.
That would make it legitimately where I would think the Cavs could go up against the Warriors because you have a true center who plays who plays I think the best version of a number 5 overall 5 spot on the floor as opposed to anyone else in the league right now for prototypical 5s. He doesn't shoot the 3 ball and stuff like that. He has before, but that's not Boogie Cousins' thing. So it's one. I'm interested here to see if that actually pulls through. But grading the Kyrie, IT and other guys straight, I think the Celtics came out on top just because the Celtics now have a better roster currently than they did before.
Mm-hmm.
Now losing Jay Crowder's not good. Losing a lot of your bench guys not good. Ante Zizic, clearly a Brooklyn pick and a bunch of other stuff's not good. But if you're the Celtics, you've got Kyrie Irving for 2 more years. You've got Gordon Hayward for 5. You got Al Horford for a couple. And then you've got, just a bunch of other guys who are going to do really, really well. They might start Jaylen Brown. They still got Jason Thompson. Actually, I'm going to have to look that up. I definitely said that wrong. But they got the pick they got this year. Jason Tatum. Sorry.
Tatum, yeah.
Yeah, he looks really, really good.
Yeah,
he might be really, really good. And then I don't know who they're going to start prototypically at center spot this year, but Al Horford will play the center for the crunch time minutes, so that's all that matters. And I think this Celtics team is going to be good.
Yeah.
And if Cleveland doesn't end up making this Shumpert plus Brooklyn pick for DeMarcus Cousins, then I really think that we could see a really, really good Celtics team that might beat Cleveland. LeBron James being beaten in the Eastern Conference has not happened in a very long time. And then all of a sudden we're hearing about this Dwayne Wade might be bought out by the Bulls and he might go to the Heat or the Lakers. So
I saw Cavs too.
Cavs, really? Oh yeah. I've seen that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Seen that for a little bit, yeah, but
that'd be interesting.
And that would be if you're Dwayne Wade, don't you just sign for the vet minimum because you already got your $24 million contract already got bought out, so you just sign for the vet minimum with Cleveland. That seems like a no-brainer to me.
Right.
Or, I guess you could want to go back to Miami or the Lakers or something like that. I don't know why. I understand why Wade opted in because of the money, but he opted in before the trade for Jimmy Butler away and the picks and the future rebuilding for the Chicago Bulls. So, in your opinion, who won the Cavs-Celtics trade?
Wow, that's a tough one. I've gone back and forth with this one a lot. I kind of try to compare the pieces that got traded. So I look at Kyrie and IT. I think Kyrie is the better player there. I think he's the better overall player. So I think Boston definitely gained a better player in terms of Kyrie Irving. That helps the team a lot. I think Kyrie going along with Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, to be a nice little that's to be a nice trio right there. I think that already makes Boston better than what they were last year. And then IT, he can just score. I think that's all he's going to need to do in Cleveland. He can be like LeBron's go-to guy if he needs to score or whatever. But I think IT is a great piece for Cleveland. But I'm saying Kyrie is better than IT. And then Crowder. I think Crowder might be the most underrated piece in this trade. I think he's just so solid on and off the ball. I think he can just be that valuable for your team. He's not the guy. He's not the go-to. He's not always the go-to guy. He's not like LeBron. He's not like Kyrie. He's just that special piece to your team that can help bring it together. So I think Cleveland actually won this trade. And they get that Brooklyn pick, which is huge because if Brooklyn's bad this year, they get that pick. Or they can just play around and trade it. And I think that's another piece that is just Cleveland's got the ball in their hands right now, I think. If they want to go trade for something, like you said, DeMarcus Cousins or something, they got that number one. Well, it's not necessarily number one pick yet, but no one really thinks Brooklyn should be good, so they should, most likely be a lottery team. So I think if Cleveland wants to trade that pick, that's in their hands. And I think Cleveland won the trade overall. But who makes this team better? I think Boston might be the better team, just because Kyrie Irving is that special and can be a force for Boston. And I like the Gordon Hayward signing, and Jason Tatum. I'm from St. Louis, so Jason Tatum went to Chaminade High School. That's also in St. Louis. So I watched him in high school, and I thought, wow, this guy's freaking amazing. And there was no surprise he was going to Duke because he was that good. All-around great player. I think he personally was the best player in the draft. So, yeah, Boston has a nice little team right now. Should be interesting to see. And like you said, I think they're going to challenge Cleveland for the Eastern Conference. I don't see any other team challenging Cleveland if anybody is. I would say right now, Boston is the better team. Who wins the trade? I would say Cleveland.
So I'm saying Boston won the trade just because I think they are the better team. I think that goes hand in hand. I understand Cleveland. I think Cleveland won it for the 5-year future, but I think that Boston, or maybe this year, but I think Boston won the immediately. And the reason being is that I think Brooklyn will be bad this year, but I think the Magic will be horrible. I think that there's a couple, I think the Magic and the Bulls are going to go into full-on we're not good anymore mode and tank mode or whatever you want to call it, and it just won't be, they just won't be in contention. I don't know who from the West exactly is going to be also with them. The Lakers are probably going to try to do something this year just because they have all the young guys. They're not going to try to lose games, of course. The Suns, the same thing.
Phoenix, yeah.
I think the Kings, of course, were always perennially saying that they might be bad, but they've got some, they have a couple of veteran signings. Who knows when Zach Randolph, if he will this season, play with them. Yeah. But, they signed Vince Carter to, teach up Harry Giles and, Josh Jack? No, not Josh Jackson.
Jackson, I think he went to the Suns.
Josh Jackson went to the Suns, but the UNC, small forward.
I know who you're talking about.
I know exactly who he is. Number 15.
I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name right now. Bryce? No.
Anyways, but I feel like the Sacramento
Let me look.
Kings. Yeah, I feel like they're not gonna be horrible, but. I don't think they'll be great either, and I think they should have their own pick this year. Gosh, they should. I say, I think the Sixers might try to be in that same kind of boat where they're kind of halfway decent this year too. It really depends, but to me, I just don't think that Brooklyn will necessarily be the worst team, and that usually factors in for them having one of the better picks. If you're absolutely the worst team, you seldomly win the entire draft the way that the lottery's done and stuff. But I don't know. I feel like the Cavs won the trade for the future, just because IT's only on the team this year. Jay Crowder signed to a very small deal for how good he is or how good he was in 2015, 2016 defensively. If the Cavs can get someone out of him like that again, then they don't really need him on Shumpert necessarily, just because Shumpert's going to guard the same kind of players, that Jay Crowder would. And the Cavs, if the Cavs are able to pull off this rumored trade right now, and if, of course, it's either, I'm going to hear right as soon as we start recording the podcast before I can even upload it if it happened or not. But if that trade goes through, that's insane for the Cavs. If it does not go through, then it's just, I think the Cavs theoretically are in a better position than they were before, just because everyone knew they wanted to get Kyrie a trade and get him out of there just because he didn't want to be there. But the Cavs are in a position where they can go into full tank mode after the season if LeBron leaves, if they don't want to re-sign IT and stuff like that. Or they're in a position where that if LeBron's like, hey, you know what? I don't really want to go to another spot right now. If that's LA, if that's, wherever else, if he wants to team up with some other, the guys down in Houston or whatever. But LeBron could just sign a one more year deal with the Cavs. If he's like, hey, the Lakers aren't doing it so great, the Rockets aren't doing so great, or whatever. And And, maybe Carmelo Anthony could blow this whole thing apart, though, in the East. Because if Carmelo Anthony somehow, some way, mid-season, just goes, hey, I'll waive my no-trade clause. I'll just waive it no matter what. Waives it, gets traded. Then all of a sudden, Porzingis, Frankie Nicotine, I guess it is. That's the nickname. I don't know how to actually say his last name. The French point guard that they drafted 8th overall. He could be really good too. And I think with the combination of those guys, they wouldn't make the Knicks better necessarily without Carmelo, because Carmelo is still a really good player. But I think if Carmelo's like, hey, I'll waive my no trade clause, or just do something where he ends up on the Rockets or the Cavs, then that could change the whole setting of the East. If Carmelo goes to the Cavs, it could change everything going on with the East right now. Yeah. That could definitely mean the Cavs won. But then if Carmelo goes, hey, I'll waive it and I'll go to Houston, that can change a lot of stuff in the West, of course, because then you go from having 3 superstars, 2 superstars on a team to 3. It's crazy. And man, this is the first time I think LeBron's going to have a team where it's just him as the superstar. Because I don't think Isaiah Thomas is one of the best 15 players in the league. I just don't think he is. I don't think he's durable enough. Every single season he seems like he gets hurt somewhat. Mm-hmm. And the craziest storyline from this whole thing, though, I just want to note on is that Isaiah Thomas and Kyrie Irving were in the same draft in 2011. Kyrie was, of course, the first overall pick. Isaiah Thomas was the last overall pick in that draft. And they didn't get traded straight up for each other, clearly, but more or less, Cleveland was like, we'll take the last guy in that draft over, the first guy, just so we can get, some more pieces back too. But that's an insane storyline to think about. And the Cavs could do something really, really special, and the Celtics could as well. I'm not counting out the Wizards just yet, because I feel like John Wall and Bradley Beal, if they get another season where they're both healthy the entire season and play together, they could be really, really good. They took the Celtics to Game 7 last year. Not as good as the Celtics team, in my opinion, but they took the Celtics to 7 last year. I think the Wizards have a chance if some injury happens or something falls the right way where they could make it back to the second round of the Eastern Conference. Excuse me, and maybe make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But it is a long shot, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Well, I think the last thing I want to touch on real quick is Russell Westbrook not signing his extension yet for Thunder for the full-on contract. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like from recent times, it seems like Russ wants to be in OKC. And maybe he's waiting to see where the Thunder are going after this year, because they brought in Paul George. I think he's happy about that because there's someone who can play alongside him. But I think he wants to see where the team's going to go after the Paul George thing. Are they going to try to bring George back? Are they going to try to bring some more pieces around Westbrook and the crew? That's something I think Westbrook is kind of waiting for and seeing what direction the Thunder are going in, because I think he really wants to win. Like he goes out there every night. He's so competitive. He wants to win. He wants to win an NBA championship. And I think he truly wants guys around him who can help him win a championship. So I think he's kind of going that way. It's kind of crazy to think if he doesn't play for the Thunder. I always say this about guys who have been on a team for so long. I never think they're going to leave. I'm always like, oh, no, they're not going to leave. It's never going to happen. Well, I've seen a lot of that stuff happen, unfortunately. AKA Kevin Durant, Albert Pujols, my beloved Cardinals. I watched him leave after 11 amazing years. There's just so many sports athletes where you really don't know what's going to happen with these guys. So all I can say is the Thunder should probably have the best possible team they can have around Russ Westbrook and make him happy. I mean, that's what you have to do at the end of the day, is make your star players happy. And you're not going to get a guy like Westbrook every day. And that's just my take on it. What are you thinking about the Westbrook deal?
So I think there's a chance. So Bedlam Brother did a podcast back in May with Thunderheads, OKC Thunderheads, and something they've discussed on one of the recent podcasts is that they've said that what if Westbrook's just waiting to sign this deal, or he wants to sign a 3-year deal and then a 5-year deal after that, because theoretically, the CBA changes a bunch. It's possible Westbrook could make more money in another deal. NBA's get more money as it goes. But what if Westbrook goes, okay, I'm 28 right now. You know, if I sign a 5-year deal, then when I'm done with that 5-year deal, I'll be, 33. And, I'll have the crown as being the biggest contract in NBA history, all type of stuff. But for the future, do I want to get paid, 205, or I think it's a very high number, clearly, for 5 years.
Yeah.
Do I want to get paid that, or do I want to go, you know what, I'll sign for the exact same amount of money per year. There's not as many years. And I'll sign like 2 to 3 years. And then I will sign a 5-year after that. So that in 2 to 3 years, he's 30. He still is the, one of the best, if not the best point guards in the league. And then he signs a 5-year after that. So he makes as much money as possible, theoretically. That's what OKC Thunderheads have talked about. I agree with that completely. That's definitely a possibility. As a Thunder for myself, I have confidence that there's no need. Westbrook signed a 1-year extension last year. Westbrook could be in this season. Westbrook could be a free agent right now if he wanted to be. If he wanted out of Oklahoma, if he wanted out of Oklahoma City, stuff like that, he could be. And I don't, some people say it's a PR move. Some people say it's something else of why he signed it, a month after KD left to the date. Because he signed, KD left, of course, on July 4th and ruined everyone's holiday. And then, Westbrook signed on August 4th, the 1-year extension with the option. So now the Thunder have given him the contract. Westbrook hasn't declined it and hasn't accepted it yet either for 35% of the cap. And if I'm a Thunder fan, whether it be a PR move or not, Westbrook's added on 1 more year when he didn't have to. When if he wanted the flexibility, he didn't have to do that, He could have, after this season, he could be, a free agent after this last season, 2016 or 2017. So there's a chance that, Westbrook's just waiting out to see what else is on the table and stuff. I've seen an article from NBC Sports that says maybe Westbrook's just kind of waiting it out to put more pressure on Sam Presti to maybe do a couple more things. Now the Thunder are not hard capped yet, but they're definitely over the salary cap already. So the Thunder are going to do a couple more things. I don't know. They don't have the Thunder have always been a very cheap contract wise team. That's one of the things about the James Harden decision. Trading him was, we can't pay over the salary cap because we're a very small market team in the NBA. Thunder. So it'd be weird for me to think that Sam Presti would be able to go out there and pull off another couple moves. Then again, I'm not so sure that Westbrook is waiting necessarily for Presti to do that. I think Westbrook's just waiting until the season gets close to starting, So if you're Westbrook, every single week so far has not been about you and your contract. Are you just waiting, a week before the season, Westbrook signs, it's the biggest thing, Thunder throw one of the, Westbrook days again, kind of like they did last year or something similar to that, of course. He gets the key to the city or something like that again and stuff like that. And literally, the NBA world is around Westbrook because he signed the biggest contract in league history and he did it, it's over this week, whatever. Because I don't think Westbrook wants it all to be about him, but if you're going to sign the biggest contract in the league history, I don't think I think you want to make your voice heard. Okay, he's that good of a player. He signed the biggest contract. Maybe, and I just think, let's let the air kind of clear a little bit and stuff like that about free agency and all type of stuff, whatever. And Westbrook's able to, do it his way. That's what he's always wanted to do it his way. Westbrook lives in LA with his wife and kid. And I just think that, once he comes back to Oklahoma City full time and stuff like that, he'll go, hey, you know what? I'm signing it today, this time, whatever. Let's go. I want to do it this way. I want to do this PR move, whatever. Westbrook just released a book, like last week, and he's had a bunch of other stuff going on as well. I just don't think that this is as pressing of an issue to him as it is to anyone else. And if you're a Thunder fan, you can really, really go to sleep going, with a little bit of confidence, is going, no matter what, this season, Westbrook's on the team. No matter what, without a doubt. No matter what, this season, Paul George, Westbrook are on the team, as well as the other guys. And let's just see what happens, if this season goes as crazy as it could, and the Warriors just aren't able to repeat the magic they had last year, which I think is possible. Everyone has the Warriors as a shoo-in for the finals again. And yeah, the Warriors have 4 all-star players on their starting roster, And yeah, they should not lose a game theoretically and stuff like that. But then again, the Warriors lose to like the Timberwolves, or the Warriors lose to like some team that's not good and stuff like that. And the Warriors got blown out last year against the Spurs to open up the season. If I'm a Warriors fan, I'm not too excited just because you brought back the exact same team. You didn't there wasn't a real reason why you needed to get better. You went, you won the finals 4-1 against the Cavs, but if I'm a Warriors fan, I'm a little nervous at this point just because everyone else got better around you and you stayed the same. There's not necessarily a reason why you had to get better, but you stayed the same. And that's something where as a Thunder fan, I feel good about. The Rockets got better, a lot better in my opinion. Even though I don't think the CP3 James Harden thing will work out in the regular season, but at the end, playoffs it will.
Yeah.
Thunder got a lot better for Paul George. Timberwolves are now a team on the rise. They give Warriors some fits. If the Warriors are playing in first round of the playoffs and they have to go against the Timberwolves or Nuggets, something like that in the first round, that won't be as easy a cakewalk as it usually is for 1 versus 8. And then all of a sudden, I think the Warriors could be a little sketched out by the end of it.
Yeah, agree.
Possible.
I agree with that.
It's possible. Everyone else around you gets better, and you stay the exact same. I don't think that's not a motto in my opinion that helps you. That increases your chance to win every single year.
Yep, Warriors got a bunch of guys who want to be the man. You got Curry, Durant, Thompson, Draymond Green even. All it takes is one little bad chemistry to boom, blow your team up. No one wants to play together. I could definitely see that happening with this Warriors team. I just think there's so many guys on that team with big egos. I mean, you see that everywhere in the NBA, but nothing more than the Golden State Warriors, in my opinion. So, yeah, come playoff time, never matters how good you were in the regular season. Never matters. I've seen it so many times. Teams can go crazy. Teams can go on a run. The best team in the regular season could look like the worst team in the playoffs. So yeah, like you said, these teams all got better, like Oklahoma City and the Houston Rockets. So I think it's going to be a fun season, and like I just said, anything can happen in the playoffs. It's all about who's playing at the right time, who's playing right at the right time. So
yeah, well, that's going to go ahead and end it out for the Bedlam Brother podcast. Of course, if you're listening to part 1, you got to the end of it, and you understand that. Previously, I said on the podcast that this podcast was released on Saturday or Sunday, and you're going, hey, this podcast wasn't released then. Well, I was wrong. Timing can be an issue, and things don't always work out perfectly. But make sure to follow us at Bedlam Brother on Twitter, like the Facebook page, Bedlam Brother, as well on Facebook. I think it's facebook.com/Bedlam Brother. And make sure to stay up to date with the website, bedlambrother.com. Lexi, you want to have any shout-outs here?
I don't think I have any shout-outs, but just want to say I'm excited for college football. And really, my team, Oklahoma State Cowboys, I'm just going to say it right here, right now. What's the date? 9/4. They will be in the college football playoff as a number 2 seed, taking on USC. That's my bold prediction. That's my shout-out. Oklahoma State football to the Final Four. We'll play USC on whatever day they're supposed to play, New Year's Day, I think it is.
All right, well, that's one heck of a bold prediction, and I like it, and I want to stick with that for sure. So, the Bedlam Brother podcast, I'm at GC Bedlam Brother. He's A Bollwerk 6 on Twitter, and we will catch you guys soon.